right, let's make a video. So I have a really, really great question here that is extra, but super important in 2024. This video probably will be dated and replaced over time. But the question is, hey, I'm a university professor. I'm teaching machine learning operations. Just wondering, how do you see the machine learning ops scene? Do you think it's a flash in the pan, or do you think it'll eventually merge with DevOps? Is it going to be its own way for traditional DevOps? And there's a lot to unpack in that question, but it's important that we do unpack this. So, this video is a part of a series of videos that are in a stage of the beginner boost, which is designed to help you learn. Let me read it exactly so I can get it right. But you go to skillstack.io and you can read this part of it. The way that I'm trying to remind myself how I worded it. So this stage starts with learn what is required for the specific career you have targeted. And I'm going to try really hard to not redo those other videos, but making the decision about what you want to do is a separate decision about how to get the learning and the skill for the specific thing. We've done other videos about Hack the Box and all this stuff for cybersecurity. This question is fundamentally about machine learning operations and indirectly about DevOps. So those are two buzzwords that if you're brand new to technology, you have no idea what they mean. And I probably should do another video about DevOps. I haven't done one yet. And we should probably do, but this video will define what machine learning operations is. So what is ops period? I believe I also did another video about whether you should certify or not and drew a contrast between operations and applications. And I'm kind of going to refer to all of that stuff indirectly now. Okay, so go back and watch those videos if you need to understand that. But in short, applications are people who make new things and make new software, whether it be web related or whatever. And they usually have higher paid salaries. They're in the developer category usually, and they also lose their jobs much more quickly when the economy goes bad. And I did a whole video about how to survive late stage capitalism by learning a little bit of both. Go watch that video. Operations people, this is critical to understanding machine learning ops and DevOps. Otherwise, we can't build on that idea. So the other side of this is operations, and operations is kind of like, the engineering department of, Star Trek. It's like they keep everything running, right? That's it. They keep everything running. And I've talked about this before, but I love repeating this quote. B'Elanna Torres in Voyager, my favorite of the Star Trek series, says, throughout history, warriors get all the credit while engineers build civilizations. And I love that. I kind of feel like that's the same thing for developers versus engineers. The developers, a lot of time, they're also builders. Don't get me wrong, but they often get a lot of credit, and the operations people are keeping the infrastructure running, and that is a great segue into what is DevOps and MLOps. We'll leave DevOps for another video. Suffice it to say that, and this is kind of answering the question, I don't think machine learning ops and DevOps are going to be the same. And I am professionally employed as a machine learning operations engineer. In fact, I recently changed my title because I've been doing so much coding lately, and I think they needed to justify the pay they were giving me. So they changed my title officially to from infrastructure engineer, high performance computing machine learning infrastructure engineer, which is kind of a mouthful, to my new title is I'm not sure I get it right. I'm doing the same job, but so the other what is it? I can't remember it now. It's what is my title? It's was it high performance back end systems developer. That's it. Yeah. So back end systems development. And that's because I'm doing all the API to submit machine learning jobs en masse at scale in a way that can be monitored to our extremely large collection of high performance GPUs associated with computers and stuff. And that is the job. That is the machine learning job. If you don't know what machine learning is, go back and watch a video about what machine learning is. Machine learning is what enables AI. Frankly, machine learning is just one form of AI. There's actually multiple forms, but nobody really talks about any of the other ones. Machine learning is one very specific form of AI that seems to be the one that's going to win out. So when you hear machine learning, think ChatGPT, think her, think AI in all its forms, and AI is here to stay. I did an entire video called "AI is Coming to Take My Job," And go watch that if you want to understand how I believe AI is impacting the technology field, whether you'll even have a job. That watching that video is going to be important because it does relate to whether or not you want to do that job or whether you're going to be good at it. Um, but how does that relate to the machine learning operations profession? As I understand the title, and by the way, that is always a challenge, right? You don't have to be a beginner to wonder what it means. DevOps is one. Go watch the video on DevOps. I'll make a separate video just about DevOps. DevOps is one of the most complicated, misunderstood, confusing terms ever invented. It's almost as bad as data science is to machine learning people. And I've actually went to a machine learning meetup and used the term, this person wants to be a data science. And the machine learning people rolled their eyes at me like visibly. They were like, oh, here we go. Somebody who's using this stupid term, data science, right? And these were, highly paid professional machine learning people that were like developing models and dealing with machine learning models and all that stuff. They were not MLOps people. And that brings us back to what is MLOps. MLOps, in my opinion, is what we do, all the things that we do to enable the machine learning PhDs and specialists to run their models and to do their thing. And how does it differ? And this is super important, okay? Because the ops on the end of the ML ops is what turns it into an operations career, which I think has tremendous similarities and relevance when it comes to learning things like Linux and how to allocate disk partitions and how to make sure your system doesn't fall on its face. All the questions that are traditional system administration, which is a term that's fallen out of vogue for a site reliability engineer, right? They're all operations. They're all keeping the machines running and keeping the applications up and keeping them separate from each other so they don't stomp on each other. That is operations. Operations is keeping the ship going forward. And when you add ML into the front of it, really the only thing you're doing, in my opinion, as defined as, the job for MLOps is literally let's enable the machine learning infrastructures. So the higher end people that are in MLOps, they're making decisions like some of the people on my team are. Do we want to go with Run AI? What kind of GPUs do we want? And they're making decisions. The architects on the MLOps architects are making decisions about what is my infrastructure going to be. Should I run my machine learning jobs in the cloud? What's the cost of that? What's the cost of renting, V100, GPUs so that I can build my own cluster on site? These are considerations for the architects, but the operations people are the ones who keep that stuff running. Comment here. You're right. My point is the integration of machine learning and AI into most apps raises the question, will future job listings assume that DevOps engineers should be proficient in ML tech stack? In that sense, I think you're asking about GitOps. And maybe that, you know what? Let's ask AI what MLOps is, shall we? That'll be fun. I think I've got the wrong definition of MLOps, and I'm going to leave that in this video just for that very purpose. What is MLOps? And I think that, and this is so interesting because this is so according to ChatGPT 4.0, MLOps is short for machine learning operations, a practice of collaborating and communicating between data scientists and operations professionals to help manage production learning systems or deep learning lifecycle. It aims to standardize and streamline the deployment, testing, and maintenance of ML models in a scalable and efficient manner, similar to DevOps and software. MLOps involves automating the process of ML model development, including model training, optimization, and deployment. And there we go. It turns out that the MLOps term has the same problem as the DevOps term, which I was hoping to avoid, but I will now talk about. Okay. The problem with DevOps is if you use the term DevOps with an IT architect or a vice president or an executive, they will tell you that DevOps is the skills and soft skills and tasks and defining the interactions between their developers and their engineers and operations people. It's the facilitation of applications developers. It is the science of that, the practice of it in a very general sense. And I have run into more than one time, because a lot of the parents, some of them were executives, and they gave very high paid. One of them offered me a quarter million job. No kidding. Giving conferences and stuff. That particular, I'm remembering that specific person I was talking to. She was employed as somebody who was giving, very expensive educational seminars about what DevOps was, and that person's definition of DevOps was the practice of facilitating all of these things without getting into the nitty gritty details about whether this person had ever heard of GitLab, by the way. Which, if you know anything about DevOps and not knowing GitLab is kind of, they're like, what's GitLab? And I'm like, okay, that's funny to somebody who actually knows about what DevOps is and its implementation and how you would, make it run and how to deploy GitOps practice. That, I'm not even kidding. That's a true story. And they were doing conferences in France about what DevOps is. And so anyway, and the point of it is, no tangents. I know. Sorry, Pipe Shot. Thank you. DevOps. Okay. MLOps, according to this, MLOps suffers from the same problem as DevOps, and that problem is, depending on who you ask, it's either the practice, and the touchy-feely thing is the practice for collaboration and communication between data scientists, another horrible term machine learning people hate, and operations professionals, which is the engineers that I was telling you about, right? So according to this definition, it's the practice, these, nebulous thing that people pay $1,000 a seat to go listen to other people talk to who don't know what GitLab is. If you can't tell, I have kind of a pejorative view of that definition because it's very Dilbert. You can't refer to Dilbert anymore. I got canceled for lots of good reasons, but still, it's the whole pointy hair boss thing, right? It's like, oh, and so when you think of MLOps in that way, it's kind of the thing. Now, tacking ops onto the end of a word has also been used for other things, and I sense that our user here is referring to MLOps in the same way that other people refer to something called GitOps. So GitOps is a more down-to-earth practice of using the very specific technology of Git and GitHub to implement very, concrete, boots on the ground kind of things, such as triggering a continuous integration and deployment, which is what, GitLab is really good at, and GitHub Actions, and triggering that so that it, your stuff goes out and gets deployed because through some automation, and that is referred to as GitOps. I think MLOps in the sense that another general term, which is, so both MLOps and DevOps, the other form of that definition is, what are the specific technologies? You talk to me and you tell me, oh yeah, I'm a DevOps engineer. I'm a DevOps person. What I hear is that you spend almost all your day writing YAML and playing with Kubernetes and containers, and you're dealing with the cloud, and you're facilitating continuous integration and deployment. That's what you're doing, because that's what DevOps is, the solid skill of implementation of DevOps. Just watch Alt F4. I'm gonna plug the Alt F4 stream, who does DevOps all the time, and actually extremely good at, or Het Tanis does DevOps also. And you're gonna see concrete skills in use and play and practice that get good ops that are designed to be DevOps. They're like, here are the practices, here are the technologies involved. Here's the, not just the practice, but here's the actual technologies. This is what we're doing to make DevOps happen. I know there's a lot there, but when somebody says, well, do you think, they clarified the MLOps being, well, what do you think a developer is going to need to know how to use ChatGPT and machine learning and that kind of thing? Do you think they're going to need to, that's how I'm reading the clarification, is that, it's like, how is AI and how is machine learning going to impact how a developer does their job, and how do you see AI and machine learning kind of coming into that place? I sense that's how they're using the definition of machine learning ops. It's like, how do I use Git to make my operations smoother, right? That would be GitOps. How do I use Kubernetes and containers and VMs and micro VMs and all that stuff, and to make my developer practices easier. That's DevOps, right? And MLOps might be, how do I use ChatGPT? How do I use AI? How do I use, whatever, all these machine learning based technologies to make operations, smoother and to make the development a little bit better. And specifically, the question is MLOps just another way to say DevOps? First of all, I think that if you're talking about ML ops in the terms of the practice, obviously not, right? Machine learning ops is more about data science and mixing that in with how do we do it. But if you're talking about machine learning ops from the sense of what is going to help us make applications better and easier, and how does this get into, how does machine learning play into that? I'd say that it's still largely in the DevOps realm, which is primarily operations. And therefore, I mean, again, this gets really hard because we're not talking about specific skills. We're still talking about these nebulous titles, and this is a very long video to talk about that. The point of it is, if you can't go wrong with operations, right? But how much machine learning do you need to learn to be an operations person in 2024? And I think that a lot of people are tuning into this video for that specific question. And my answer is, I think you should learn how to generate and submit a machine learning model no matter what. And I have not committed to doing a segment on that specific thing, mostly because I don't know how. But I definitely think that in 2024, not knowing what a machine learning model is and not knowing how they are deployed, how they are used, and potentially how you could use the deployed machine learning models that exist, such as ChatGPT, Gemini, and all the other ones, as a serious negative. I would go so far as to say is that not being able, like a level 2 knowledge, go watch the video about, ranking your knowledge in a skill stack. Level 1 and level 2 knowledge of machine learning. What's a data model? How do I make one? How do I support one? How do I run one? What's a GPU? Why do I need a GPU? What's a GPU versus a CPU? Those questions, I think, are now mainstream foundational things that every single technologist has to understand. If you cannot have an intelligent conversation with someone about what is used to generate a data model or to generate, essentially an AI, because you don't understand how those things are created, I would call that a deficiency in 2024. So I really think strongly that everybody, including myself, and in my own autodidactic, plan is I will write and create a data model. I will do my own crunching. I will use the tools of the day, in this case, PyTorch, TensorFlow and PyTorch are the competitive tools. And I'm going to make a model and I'm going to submit it and I'm going to use it, right? And I think that knowing how to do that, at least knowing the concepts behind it, even if you don't have to do it before you start applying for tech jobs, you need to understand the steps involved to do that, even if you've never done it. And that I do understand. I can tell you how they go about doing these things, because I support them every day. I mean, that's what I do. I wrote the API that integrates the machine learning automatic submissions and stuff. Can I ever create my own model? No. Do I know how they're created? Do I know the difference between the model that's being created and the model that's being consumed when it's applied from your phone or something? Yes. So the answer, that's a very long answer. And yes, you need to learn machine learning operations. Do I think it's going to change regular operations? Is it going to get merged in? Yeah, I absolutely do. I don't think it's going to be, I think machine learning operations is going to be consumed by operations in general. In fact, I think we're going to start to see fewer people even distinguish, it used to be that this has happened with lots of terms over the time, by the way. So, it used to be there was like web development, right? It used to be people would call it web developers. In fact, I would go so far as to say the Bureau of Labor Statistics, the numbers changed one year pretty dramatically between software developer and web developer, right? And I think the reason is because Electron, this is a specific example, but it does relate to what I think is going to happen with machine learning operations as a separate idea and category. For a long time, you have web developer and then you have software developer, and they were different, right? And I think that, I don't know, but I think that the reason that the numbers changed so dramatically and the software engineering category shot through the roof, software developer, not engineer, and the web people kind of went down, the pace of increase and everything kind of slowed down for web developer, is because fewer and fewer people were classifying themselves as web developers. And it's there's I mean, as you watch the beginner boost, you'll see that web technology, somebody was complaining about it earlier, web technology is in everything now. Now that we have Electron, VS Code is web tech. I know people have a hard time getting their head around that. Why does this have to do with machine learning ops? Because the same thing is happening to machine learning, right? Machine learning is becoming so ubiquitous and such a part of every single thing we have. It's going to be very, very soon that we're not going to need to disambiguate. We're not going to be able to put machine learning behind operations. It's just operations. And if you don't have AI in your operations, then what are you doing? What are you, a dinosaur? I mean, that's where it's going. It's going because it's going to be so prevalent. It's going to be so ubiquitous. It's going to be so everywhere that there's not going to be a distinction. I also believe that's going to be true of the term high performance computing. So high performance computing, or HPC, is now kind of used. I mean, I'm on an HPC, operations team, and we are distinguished from like the network infrastructure or whatever. But our umbrella is so huge, you could just call us IT, right? We're just information technology at that point. But at some point in history, they created a high performance computing, because we were dealing with computers that were, I suppose, more powerful than desktops or whatever, and so they made it go back and forth, and they made the distinction. I think high performance computing as a distinction is going to go away, unless it becomes a distinction primarily designed for quantum, which Freedom just walked in. Please don't spam the chat, Freedom. I know you're going to love this, but you can now get a 3-qubit desktop computer that runs quantum, a true quantum computer for $5,000 to start testing things academically. You can't do anything with it yet. But that the distinction, yes, this is a rabbit hole, but this is related to the whole MLOps versus DevOps versus operations thing, right? To be completely fair, I think DevOps has already been consumed by operations, right? And I really do. In fact, I tell people all the time, stop calling yourselves a DevOps engineer, call yourself an infrastructure engineer, or just call yourself an ops engineer, because your integration with the cloud and continuous integration and all of those things that are traditionally assigned to DevOps, those are now assumed to just be a part of operations. In fact, I am literally in the middle of writing a GitHub action that deploys to our internal infrastructure that has nothing to do with the cloud or anything like that. It's just basically an extension to Ansible, but it's triggered by Git. The point is, it's just operations at the end of the day. So whether you want, I mean, if you're trying to decide what to put in your curriculum and stuff, and you were making a decision here, I would just include understanding machine learning models and that kind of things from a higher theoretical perspective. I would include that in all of your operations training for anybody going into the tech field. And then I would leave machine learning into its own highly specialized category for people who want to actually spend their days in PyTorch and TensorFlow and writing models and cleaning data and all of that thing. So that's a pretty long question and answer session about that. But hopefully that gets to the point of the core of the issue. Machine learning is going to be everywhere. It's all operations, and everybody should learn at least what the concepts are. Hopefully that covers it.